Hello, John here, and this, I think, is episode 5. I think. Let's just have a quick check. Yep, episode 5. And in this episode, what we're going to do is we're going to create a smooth text scroller, but using the C64 hardware and an interrupt to drive it. So this potentially could be a long episode, so I'll decide whether I'll split it or just leave it as it is, because I'm starting to become famous for the hour-long videos. So let's get started. So already done it, so it's going to do it in phases. So let's start with phase 1. So what we're going to do is we're going to have to identify part of the screen we want to do the scrolling on, and then get the interrupt to affect that part of the screen. And what I mean by that is, if we go into the screen builder, what I'm going to do is 5, 10, 15, 20, 25. I'm going on this line here is where we're going to put the text scroller. And this is the area we want the interrupt to look after. And we're going to have to do a bit of manipulating of the VIC chip, because we want to do the hardware part of it as well, where it's going to be the normal text scroller, but because we're using the hardware aspects of the VIC chip, we're going to give the impression it's scrolling across the screen. So the first thing what I was trying to do was, can I get the VIC chip to be controlled for just part of the screen? I know that many computer games and stuff like that could do it, but I didn't know if I could do it myself. And so what I was doing was, we set up the interrupt. So this is setting up the interrupt here. Here we're setting up whether the raster can be detected, and here we're setting the scrolling Y register to be no compare. Yeah, and then we're setting the IRQ mask to be raster enabled compare. So that means that we can ask the VIC chip where the raster is, and it would tell us. And then I'm just backing up the background colour, the foreground colour and all that just here. And then here on the interrupt, I'm setting the external colour, and then I'm testing for raster line D2. So I'm looping around until I hit it, and then I set the background colour, not the background colour, the border colour, and I set the scroll Y aspect, scroll SX aspect of the screen, and then I wait for dB on the raster. That's what this bit does, and then I set everything back to normal. Very simple, and we'll just run it so you can see. And there you go. As you can see, I have made the border encroach onto the background, and that's because for this area of the screen I'm telling the VIC chip that we are 38 columns. If I move the cursor down, you'll see it's just literally one line look, or just over one line. Yeah, and that's because we want to be able to put a character there and take away the character there, but for the user not to see it, because if we had the character, if we could see the character there, you'd see it being plonked on and then it goes dark, blank, and then plonked on and then it goes blank again. I don't want to do that. So that is working. So what we're going to do is we're going to, oops, I forgot something. I also forgot we can change the colour of it. So up here in the top corner we can specify the colours. So if we want white or red, cyan or pink, green, blue, yellow, and I think you go into B, C, D, E, F, J, H, I, Q, J, K. So we can, and we're also affecting the colour. So that is part one. Part one is to just affect the VIC chip in an area and then leave it as it is. So that was just the basic part of setting up this text scroller. So that was the first thing I did. Now the second thing I did is to add, so it's exactly the same. All we're doing is now setting up the text pointers. So everything's still the same. I've added my text, and here it's still the same here, but afterwards we've set up the text on the text scrolling part. Now I'm gonna rem this lot out because I want to show you what the text is like at full whack, right? So there's no delay on it, and that's all I've done. This text is actually copied out of this text here. So in the second episode we did a normal text scroller. This is it, and all I've done is just copied it into here. It's exactly the same code. Right, so let's run it so you can see what happens. There you go, one text scroller. Smooth as you like. Can you read it? Not really. But it is a smooth, and it's scrolling at the speed of the raster. And I think the speed of the raster is like 50 frames a second. So that means a character's whipping across the screen in just under a second. So that's why it's really quick. So we'll re-enable this, and basically what this does is says it counts for 7 frames and then moves the character, counts for another 7 frames and then moves the character. So the character should be scrolling 7 frames. That means instead of it moving, it's only moving, yeah, it's a lot slower. So here we go. There we go. So it's a lot slower. So it's now behaving like the text scroller that I did in episode 2. But the problem is, it's so we've got to try now to make it scroll smoothly. And the way to do that is to use that X position of the VIC chip, because the X position will shift the screen left or right up to 7 pixels, and if that's the case, we can mimic the scrolling aspect of the smooth scroller. So, and it all ties in with the amount of frames that we are pausing on, because what we can do while we're waiting for the next character, we can still be setting the scroll aspect of the VIC chip to move through the seven pixels. So this is what number 3 does. So it's exactly the same as before. We've just got the frame counter in there. The only difference is we set it to 8, and is in the previous version we was increasing and testing with 0. We're now decreasing, because if you increase, it's going from left to right, and we want it to go from right to left. So left to right is increasing, right to left is decreasing. So what we're doing is, for every frame we're doing here, we are setting it in the scroll. So in this scroll here, we are taking the frame counter and we're putting it into the scroll X factor while we're waiting to find the bottom raster line. But everything else is exactly the same. The only difference is we're counting down rather than counting up. And this is what happens. There you go. So what's happening is we're moving the X from there to there, and then moving it back, and then moving it again, then moving it back. But every time we move it back, we actually move the character along once, like we did in the previous example. But the illusion is it's smooth scrolling across the screen. But we're not actually using any high resolution graphics or anything like that. We are using the normal text on the screen, but for this band here, we're affecting the the X position, and we're affecting the state of the border, and it allows you to do the smooth scrolling. So, like I said, while it's found the top of the raster and the bottom, in the middle, it's setting the X value based on the frame counter. And when the frame counter resets, that's when we move the text over one. And so it gives you the impression you have a smooth scrolling text on it. And that's as easy as it is. Really, that's as easy as it is. But I've got one thing more. Because this episode was based on a YouTuber called Dave AU Classics. And I asked him if I could borrow his code, and he said yes. But he did something even more. Now I'm not going to explain it to you because I just want to show you what he did. And here we go. He's actually affected the background of the text to rotate through 40 colours as it's going along the screen, and those 40 colours are derived by up here. But you know, when you look at smooth scrollers in games like Ghostbusters and all that, it's not black writing on a colourful background, it's actually colourful writing, and that gets a little bit tricky. But what I'm doing is, well, I should say what Dave did. So this is the string that sets up the colour bandings, what he does is when he finds the top raster, so he finds the top raster, we set the X pixel by the frame counter, and then we run through each of the raster lines, and in each of the raster lines you set the background color, and then you go back, find the next raster line, then set the background color, do it again, do it again, do it again, and we do that about 8 times because we're setting each one of the pixels of the background color to make one of the colors. And then when you found the bottom of the background, we set the background and the exterior color back to where it was, we replace the scroller back to what it was, and we do the text rotation as well. And that's all it is. Here's the rotating of the colours, which is the colours across the top of the screen, and the text rotation. And so you get this effect, and it's really, really cool. But if you want the true effect of, say, Ghostbusters and all the others that had smooth scrollers, then this is what you need to do. Boom. There you go. Now that is affecting the colours of the characters. And that is what the smooth scrollers of the games are, especially the loader games like Ocean Loader and the others that came along. So I hoped, bit of shameless self-promotion on there, isn't there? Well, I'd like to thank Dave for allowing me to use his smooth scrolling example as a teaching element of this video. If you like this video, click the like button. If you didn't like it, fine, hit that dislike button. Always leave me a comment, because every comment that is there I try and answer and put a response to it. And if you like what I do and you want to be able to support me, try, it's on the screen right now, to become a patron of mine, because all the money that I raise in Patreon comes back into the channel. And with that, I will say I'll see you in the next video. Take care, and ta-da for now. I'd like to thank all the patrons that are contributing to my channel. Without you guys, I wouldn't be able to do what I'm doing right now. Thank you very much.